warm welcome to Passion Vista podcast. I'm your host Neetu Singh, here to bring you stories, insights, and ignite passion and drive. Today we are joined by a true trailblazer in holistic wellness, Tamara Beydoun. Very warm welcome to you, Tamara. We are super duper excited and ready for an enduring conversation with you at our Passion Vista podcast.
Thank you so much for having me here, Dr. Singh. It's my honor to be here, and I can't wait to share some of my experiences on this podcast.
You're absolutely welcome. Thank you so much. And I am really excited to tell our viewers that Tamara has been featured in Passion Vista magazine, Women Leaders to Look Up to in 2024. And we have featured the beautiful article, and the story is really amazing. So stay tuned with us and do read her story with us. And Tamara, so we're very excited to know your story in your own words. Please tell us about yourself and your beautiful journey.
Yeah, it has been a beautiful journey, and I really feel very privileged actually to be here sharing it. I think there's nothing more powerful than one's own life experiences, and this is what makes us all so unique. We each come into this world and we create our own experiences, and then sharing it with others is shows our vulnerability and shows our humanity. And so my journey has been an adventure of life. You know, I was born in Lebanon. My mother is Palestinian. My father is Lebanese. I grew up in a very nice environment. The war started, then there was displacement. I later discovered that I was sexually abused. I had completely blocked that trauma when I was young. It was just too painful to bear. Life took me on its own journey. I lived in Athens when I was young due to the war. I lived in Paris for a year as well. Then we moved to Cyprus. Then at 15, I left my parents and went to live in London. And I was with my older sister there. And, you know, it all sounds really exciting. And it was exciting. But in retrospect, now that I'm a bit wiser, it was really tough. And it was actually very, in many ways, traumatic. All this displacement, leaving your family, leaving your friends. It was not easy. And, you know, we're tough. We just get on with it. That does not make it easy.
I mean, listening to only this much, goosebumps are there all around me. I mean, it's absolutely, coming for a war situation and you are all alone at age of 15, you left your home and you've been building and building yourself. Actually, at that age, we ourselves are not aware who we are and what are we actually ready to do. And you've been all alone. I mean, I mean, amazing story. So we're very excited to know more.
Yeah, so then the journey, I went into marketing. I had a good career. I worked with big establishments. I always loved working with people. So I ended up working mostly in the hotel and media and hospitality industry. And it's a very service industry based on connections. And then I had my 3 children. They're the best gift in my life. I got married, had my kids. And as COVID started, I had resigned from my tourism job in marketing, and something was stuck. I wanted something different. I was enjoying marketing, but there was something. I had a calling, if you want to say that, you know. Because of COVID, I was stuck at home. And thanks to COVID, we ended up having access to some of the best teachers in the world from our screens. And this is how my own personal journey started. So like most coaches, I guess, it starts with our own personal journey of self-reflection, doing the work. And then when you go through your own journey, you get a light bulb moment and you're like, I want to share this with others. I want others to know that there is a choice that connects you to your true self. And, you know, I mean, the rest is basically, I ended up, since the age of 16, actually, my main interest was nutrition, but somehow I didn't study nutrition. So at 50, I decided to go back to something similar. And that's how I got into functional medicine, health coaching, because it includes nutrition, but it also includes all aspects of life, start going from nutrition to movement to sleep to connections to relationships to career, anything that is not allowing you to show up as the best version of yourself.
Correct, correct. So we would definitely like to know more about functional medicine, because how does it actually work on our body, on our soul? Because I think if you have a healthy body, if you're happy, your soul is happy, and you're doing a great work and a wonderful job in your career, in your life, in your family. So how do you think this actually works and it actually helps in our daily routine?
Yeah, I mean, it's just so powerful. And I really feel so lucky to have been on that path and to have studied functional medicine, health coaching. Because, in medicine and conventional medicine, and I'm all for conventional medicine, I really think we're in an incredible times in our lives where conventional medicine is curing so many sicknesses. But for me, it's also understanding that there's a lot of preventative measures that we can take, and that gives us a lot of power. So with functional medicine, we get to the root cause of our problems. And I can just give you, for example, if somebody is suffering from joint pain, constant joint pain, you go to a doctor, yeah, they do all the scans and so on, and it's great. They give you some medication to normally stop the symptoms, and you can live a good life without having to deal with the pain. I mean, it can be exhausting. Now, in functional medicine, we get to the root cause, and through our food, through our sleep, through our movement, through our emotional state as well, because that's all connected. I mean, we're one human being. You can't take one aspect and just completely divide us into parts. We are a complete human being, and everything is interconnected. So through functional medicine, let's say if somebody comes in with chronic pain in joints, we can look at the way they eat, and there are ways of actually, it's often connected to inflammation. So we can go through a certain lifestyle change where we remove a lot of the inflammatory foods from our diets. And we have seen results. I mean, you can start seeing results, for example, in chronic pain, joint pains, 3 weeks into this diet or into this food plan, people start seeing that the pain has just gone. And I can't speak for everyone. Obviously, it's a very personal approach. There are so many factors, but there's so much. I mean, my mother had Alzheimer's, and this is also one of the reasons why I got into functional medicine, health coaching. And in Alzheimer's, more and more now, they see that it has a direct connection to the way we live. The food, the sleep, the toxins, like metal toxins in your body, in your brain, has been proven to be one of the main reasons of neurological sicknesses, one being Alzheimer's.
Tell us more details, like you recently just now said that metal and toxins. So how are these metals and toxins coming into our body through food?
Okay, I can speak from personal experience because my mother died from Alzheimer's. Well, you don't die from Alzheimer's, but she had Alzheimer's and she passed away, and my aunt as well. So I was really quite scared. I'm like, okay, am I gonna end up like my mother? I would really rather not. So I did the genetic test to check if I have the genes. I don't. I don't think my mother had the gene
Okay.
either. Then I did the metal toxins test, and I have very high levels of mercury and of lead.
Okay.
These two can be really a main cause of
So
Alzheimer's
how
later
are
on.
they entering into a body?
So I mean, mercury, most likely. I love fish. I love
Um,
salmon, and I was eating a lot of salmon, a lot.
okay, got it.
So now I've cut that out. I've taken certain supplements which would help me to detoxify the
Okay,
mercury. I also do an infrared sauna,
okay, okay. Yes.
and this is really supporting me to really completely remove all these toxins from my body.
Oh,
And the same with lead. Lead could be from the environment, from water, from paint. So this is quite, I mean, when I found out I had very high levels of metals, I'm like, yay, I'm so glad I know. I wasn't scared because now I can take measures to prevent this developing into something more
Correct.
serious.
Correct.
And that's
Do
the
you
power
think that
we have.
cosmetics and creams, what we are wearing today, do they also play a role?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, definitely, like deodorants, I don't use any, I only use natural deodorants, toothpaste. Whenever possible, I use natural products for my
Oh,
skin. Sometimes it's difficult because some of the products are so amazing. So I make a couple of
I know.
exceptions.
Correct.
But yeah, I mean, we really unfortunately sold a lot of rubbish. And, more and more we see in cosmetics and in creams a very, very good range of natural products. And they're not really more expensive.
Okay. Okay. That's really
So it's important to really be aware of what you're putting on your body and in your body and around your body.
so. So only I'm wondering how you look so beautiful, so young. I mean, nobody can actually guess your age.
Oh my God. Okay, maybe because I live in Switzerland. No, I honestly, thanks for the compliment. I think, it's just a general state of being. I really eat well.
Okay.
I, so when I started my own personal growth journey, and I think what a lot of us are missing is
Correct.
self-compassion. And I ended up doing a lot of workshops with some of the most incredible teachers on self-compassion. That was my choosing. That was a need I had.
Correct.
Some of the greatest teachers for me were Tara Brach and Kristen
Oh
Neff.
wow. Wonderful.
They're incredible. To me, they were the beginning of a shift.
Correct.
And as I started really developing a sense of self compassion for myself, I started wanting to really nourish my body and my soul with only the best.
Correct. Yes.
Because I'm a miracle. Each one of us is.
So true. So true.
So no one can take care of you, because I can eat well, I can sleep well, but if emotionally I'm in a total place of chaos and completely ungrounded, well, then forget eating well and sleeping well. That's not going to work. This is the whole connection of how we're formed. So, I started doing a lot of meditations. I started doing I did some incredible retreats called Shinrin Yoku, which is forest
Oh,
bathing, connecting with nature, which in Japan, it's included in the insurance because it really grounds you and has been proven to have incredible effects on our nervous system. So, these things are free. You go, you walk in nature. We all have some access to
correct.
nature. Listen to the bird
Yes.
chirping, listening to that also. So, doing all that, eating well. I love sleeping. I sleep 9 hours, 10 hours a day. I love sleeping.
Yes.
When you're sleeping, your body is regenerating new healthy cells. It's a time for recovery. I exercise a lot, but not excessively, because also excessive exercise is also
Correct.
damaging. So, really listening to your body and what it needs.
So, Tamara, do you think that people say you have to sleep by this time and you have to wake up? Does really time matters of sleeping, or it's just the hours that matter?
Your body will tell you, because I can tell you that maybe the actual time does not matter, but more often than not, your body will tell you that at the same time, more or less, that it's time to sleep.
Correct.
I mean, I have a funny story because for years and years, I have like a projection clock on my wall. And every time at the time I would switch off my light, I would look at the clock, and by pure chance, it was 22:22. I mean, it was such a coincidence that I really paid attention to
So
it.
you have a body clock which says, "Oh, it's
It's
22:20. It's time to
crazy.
sleep."
Yeah, yeah. So I think your body automatically will set itself into a time that works with you.
Correct.
The body is a very kind, it's kind to us. It adapts to us as well. So if you're someone who sleeps later, It will adapt. But I mean, obviously, if you go to bed at 3 in the morning and wake up at 3 in the afternoon, I definitely this is not the way forward.
Correct, correct, correct. Yes. But today's young generation, I mean, this is very important for them to understand their own sleep pattern, because they are like, they sleep at 1 in the morning, they wake up at 1 in the afternoon, and they're just disturbing their cycle. Even if it is a Sunday,
Absolutely.
they're like, it's a weekend, we want to have a
Yeah, yeah,
party, we want to enjoy.
yeah.
But I
It's
think
so
being
true.
into nature is very important rather than partying too much.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. And getting this morning sun onto your skin and body in the morning, even if you go for a 10-minute walk, this sun gives you very good melatonin, which is amazing for good sleep.
Correct.
So the body is made to be awake in the morning. It doesn't have to be at 7, but in the morning, not
Yes.
at 1.
So how food plays a role as a medicine in our body?
I mean, really, we are who we eat in many ways. Um, you know, Nature is a miracle, just like we are, and it is there to provide for us. So eating, I eat meat. I'm not a vegan. I'm not a vegetarian. At one point, I was a vegetarian. Maybe because I also live in Switzerland and the quality of meat here is very, very healthy. So I do eat meat, but I choose grass-fed meat.
Okay.
I eat chicken, and I always choose organic chicken. We have very good quality. So although I can't, some people prefer vegan, and I think if that works for your body, great.
Yes.
For others, that doesn't work, and I wouldn't say there is right or wrong as long as you get healthy proteins. Proteins are
Correct.
very important for our body. So on my side, I have protein at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. For
Okay.
years and years, I wouldn't have breakfast. And now I got into this really healthy habit the last 3 years of having a healthy breakfast. And typically, for example, I wake up, I have a lemon ginger shot in warm water.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have a smoothie which includes nuts, healthy nuts, berries, frozen berries, a bit of almond milk. And this really, I've noticed since I really got into a good breakfast, a filling breakfast, my sugar levels are very much at a consistent level. I don't, often we get this drop in the
Yes.
afternoon. You don't get that. So you don't end up binging
Binge.
on
Correct.
carbs and on unhealthy foods. So this is,
Correct.
to me, this is my experience. Again, every person is individual. Some people that works for them, some don't. So I would always listen to my clients and see what works for them,
Correct.
what gives them energy throughout the day. And then at lunchtime, I tend to have a lot of vegetables. So it could be a salad with avocados, with nuts, and a good protein, either chicken. I love sardines. I eat a lot of sardines, anchovies as well. Uh, Wild salmon, yes. And then usually I tend to get quite hungry at 4 o'clock. So I end up having a snack of some nuts as well, with maybe some yogurt or a dark chocolate. Dark chocolate is very healthy.
Yeah.
And a good dinner as well of some protein with vegetables. And it's amazing because when you do that, when you eat well, the body again is so kind. It is so responsive. It tells you immediately, I feel good.
Correct.
So listen to your body. Eat what I mean, at one point I was eating a lot of kale,
Oh, okay.
super healthy, but my body did not tolerate it.
Yes.
So not because if it's healthy, then it's okay for you. Listen to your body. But again, I mean, we can safely say that there are some foods definitely to be avoided, and these are typically processed foods. I mean,
Correct.
our supermarkets are filled with processed food.
Yes.
Go to the healthy section, go to the vegetables, get the rainbow colors of the vegetables, diversify. Don't eat the same vegetables all the time. The diversity of it is so important. Same with fruits.
Yes. Yes. You're right. That's so true. So we're now very much keen to know your experience in Europe. and your professional and personal development that has played in Europe. So please tell us more about that.
So basically, you've accurately stated that a lot of younger people are struggling with their sleep. So far, my clients have been, although it was not my target audience, but I also believe that your target audience sometimes just comes to you. So I ended up really attracting youngsters in their 20s. I mean, not so young, but in their late 20s, early 30s, and mostly in the UK. I also work with Lebanon as well, and Arabic speaking countries, but my clients are mostly in the UK or English speaking. And they often come to me because there's not sleeping well, they want to improve their food, their diet, they are lacking energy. And my coaching is always client led. I don't choose the focus. The client chooses the focus. And I listen because most of us want to be heard.
Correct.
There is so much power in being heard and not being judged, and giving them a safe space where they can share anything and share their setbacks without feeling that it's a failure, because every goal has setbacks. 95% of our goals end up in setbacks, and that's okay. That's us being human. So, I listen to their stories, I listen to their challenges, and every session ends with a goal, a SMART goal. And they set the goal. I don't set the goal for them.
So, how many sessions do you take for them? How's the process actually?
So firstly, we have a discovery session, which is free. It's a half-hour discovery session where we just talk, and I listen to what they need, and they listen to how I work. They ask me questions, and we see if the chemistry works, because human connections is all about chemistry between two people.
That's so true.
And I really have no issues. I would encourage them to say no if they don't feel the connection.
Correct.
So that's the discovery session. If they think this is going to work and I'll be able to support them, then we book a foundation session, which normally takes about 90 minutes.
Okay.
And there we really talk about all the different goals they would like to achieve, and what's behind these goals, and what is their vision. I work a lot with positive psychology.
Okay. That's
so what is their vision? What are their values? How does it feel to be aligned to your values? So bringing out this bodily feeling of when we're aligned to what brings us joy, how do we feel? I want them to feel it so they can if they feel it, they will achieve it. So in the foundation session, we go through all that. I also would have shared the contract so they can ask me any questions. And normally I would ask them to book either 6 sessions or 12.
Right.
Preferably 12, because as a behavioral change expert, which is in a way what coaches do, it takes time to change behaviors.
Yes.
So I would recommend 12 sessions. And then normally we would work once a week.
These sessions are in the interval of once a week, once a month?
Normally it's once a week. If they feel this is too much, I'm happy to work with once every fortnight. But usually we stick to once a week. And usually my sessions are half an hour. Now, because I have 2 hats. I do the functional medicine, health coaching, but I also do the somatic trauma informed coaching.
Okay.
If we start getting into trauma, which often is the case,
yes, that's
then the sessions are longer than half an hour. Then I would ask them to buy the packages of 45 minutes, 50 minutes per session.
Our viewers will definitely like to know more about somatic trauma informed. So what is it, and how actually this helps in changing our lives? Please tell us.
Yeah, I actually just published an article yesterday about that with another magazine. And I was like, okay, what got me from functional medicine, health coaching? Why am I combining both? Because again, it's from my own personal experience. I think we are often stuck in certain patterns, certain ways of eating, certain ways of sleeping, certain ways because of some trauma. And let me be very clear about the term trauma. You know, when we think of trauma, often we think of war, abuse. Sometimes trauma is just an injury, an emotional injury. Like you have a physical that has not healed. It can be like your teacher, you had a teacher who was very harsh on you, and the way you interpreted this experience was extremely traumatic. And as a result, you ended up adapting your behaviors through protections because you don't want to feel that pain again.
Yes.
So when we talk about trauma, it can be very, I mean, of course, there is more, we call it the capital T trauma, which is like more serious trauma. But a trauma is a trauma, and it's an emotional wound. So in my work, often when I work with a lot of my clients, we start, let's say, working with food and diet, or, you know, certain unhealthy relationships with food.
Yes.
And as we go in, as trust is gained between the coach and the client, and as they start feeling a sense of safety in that space that we created, after a few sessions, things start unfolding into something more deep. And it's, of course, the right questions. I mean, as a coach, I ask the questions and I give the space to my clients. But the question has to be, you know, in coaching, we call it motivational interviewing techniques, where I encourage a certain way of questions which are open-ended, and I give the space for the client to talk. And when there is a space that is safe, that has been developed between us, if they feel they're ready and if there is a need, we start understanding that there is more to this unhealthy relationship they have with food.
Correct.
Are they avoiding being lonely? Is this emotional eating? What is the need behind it? And then we delve into trauma.
Correct, yes.
And then our sessions really shift into completely something. We put the food aside and we work with that part that needs healing, that needs to be heard. And then with a few sessions, if sometimes longer, depends on the person, something shifts. And they understand that they don't need food anymore as a way of filling that emptiness inside, that need they had. So, I mean, that's just one example.
They have feeling that trauma which they have,
Yes.
so now they've identified it. So
exactly. It's like an escape mechanism.
Yes.
It's a distraction. You know, I love what Gabor Mate says about addictions, and, you know, addictions, like everything we do in excess is an addiction. And he says addiction is a symptom.
Yes.
And it's really trying to understand what is happening behind this unhealthy relationship you may have with food or with sleep. Like, you know, with being addicted to screens. What are we trying to escape?
Yes.
And allowing that. So this is the somatic part. You know, suddenly my clients might suddenly see themselves crying, and they're like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm like, what are you apologizing for? I'm sorry, I'm crying. Let these tears come out. Do you feel safe enough to close your eyes now? Yes. What are you feeling? Let's delve into the body. This is the somatic. Let the body talk. The mouth and the brain talks all the time. Let's allow the body talk. Close your eyes. If you need to open your eyes, I'm here. So this is really safe for you.
Correct.
Anytime, and then go deep. Where is it in the body? What is it feeling? What is it asking you? What does it need? How old does it think you are? And often I'm the 6-7-year-old. And can you give it your age? What is that emotion telling you? So we delve, and this is a bit of like internal family systems where we work with these parts.
Yes.
that have been there all these years to protect us from feeling that pain because we couldn't cope with that pain. But as adults, we can, and
Yes.
we're safe.
Yes. Correct. That's so true. You've also gone through a childhood trauma and abuse, as you mentioned. So, would you like to share the story with us how you healed yourself?
Yeah, of course. So for me, the experience happened at the age of 7.
Oh my
And
God.
I was in a summer camp, actually, ironically enough, in Geneva.
Oh my God.
Yeah, funny how I ended up back here. And you know what? I didn't understand what happened. So what did I do? My body blocked it. The mind and the body is so good at protecting us. And some people tell you, no way, if you had this experience, you remember it. No, you can block it completely.
Yes.
And then I blocked it. I remembered there was something that did not feel right at this summer camp.
Correct.
I blocked it for years and years until I was around 18, 19.
But did
And
you
I,
discuss it with anybody around or?
no, because you know what happened with that person who abused me? He also, I was in a field after the abuse, and you know, this little wooden bar where you balance.
Yes, yes.
So I was balancing, and this I remember really well, and I remember balancing myself on it, and he jumped on me again.
Oh,
And luckily, I broke my ankle.
oh,
So when I broke my ankle, I told the teachers, I broke my ankle. He jumped on me. And what happened back then, and remember, I'm a 7-year-old child, and he said, no, I saw her falling, I helped her. And everybody believed him and not me.
not
So
you.
immediately, I never told anyone, not my parents, no one, because I thought, anyway, what I'm saying is not, I was gaslit.
Yes.
And that's it. My words meant nothing. So I was like, it was too painful to realize that no one's going to believe me, as if it was my fault.
Correct.
So as a little child, that was my interpretation. Of course, if I told my parents back then, they would have definitely believed me. But as children, we always take full responsibility. It's my fault that this happened. So I'm going to stay quiet. And I blocked it. That's it. Because it was so painful, my body blocked the experience for 10 years. And I was quite an innocent little child. I'm not like today's generations. You know, they're much smarter in many ways. They're less naive.
Correct.
And so I was in London, and I remember listening to the news. Maybe I must have been 17, 18 at that time. And I heard on the news sexual abuse, rape. And suddenly the memory just came back as a flashback.
Correct.
Suddenly I was like, oh my God, this is what happened to me. It
Yes.
suddenly validated my experience. I found the word, it exists, and it's very toxic and it's unacceptable. So I knew at that time that I was sexually abused. But and I told my parents, but I mean, you know, at the time my parents thought, oh, good, you're okay now. You know? That's how. And I was like, yeah, yes, I'm okay. You know?
Yeah.
But actually, you know, you're not okay because, you know, because of such experiences, what ends up happening, and this I understood later in life. Yes, I was physically okay. I was a happy person living my life. But there were so many scars, and what ends up happening is you develop very strong protective parts to protect you from this happening again. So I was, in my opinion, someone who was very controlling with my children. I wanted things because I had no control when this situation happened. So whatever control I had in my life, I was excessively a perfectionist, a control, and these are all protective parts. And
Yes.
at one point in my life, I was exhausted. I didn't want control. I didn't want to be perfect. I wanted to make mistakes. Didn't want to be a people pleaser. And then I understood. I mean, that was like 5 years ago. I'm like, now I know why I was so exhausted living out of these parts and living so far away from who I want to be. And
Correct.
then doing that work and doing a lot of therapy with my own therapist in healing these parts and stepping out of the need to control. Like
Correct.
understanding that today I'm safe. I don't need to be perfect. I'm okay with my flaws. I'm not that little child who was abused. I can take care of myself. And that takes a lot of therapy work. I mean, obviously we can't summarize it in 20 minutes or 10 minutes. Doing that, I mean, life really shifts when you listen to your body. You give it the space to express itself, self-compassion, understanding the situation, even having a lot of compassion towards these controlling parts, towards the
Correct.
perfect, because these were there to protect you.
Yes. Yes, that's so true.
So, giving them compassion and saying thank you so much for being there for me, but right now I can take care of myself without you. It works.
Yes.
And then when this happens, the connections you have around you are magical
Yes.
because you connect from a different place. You're connecting from an authentic, a core part of who you are. You've shed layers
Yes.
and you're showing up with so much authenticity and vulnerability
Yes. Yes.
that is really so powerful. So, like, I just feel with this work on my own personal self, dealing and going through hell. I mean, there were times where the experience, I went through hell, but there is so much light after walking through hell. And one has to do that journey through hell.
Yes. I think
And
certain incidences happen in your life because they're there to make you. I mean, I
yes,
believe if this wouldn't have been with you, you would have not opted for this course and this
totally.
certification. And today you're changing many lives. You're actually taking out people from their trauma and helping them relive happily.
Yes, and we have a choice.
Yes, we do.
But the choice is ours. No one can do this work for you. You can have a therapist 1 hour every day for 10 years. If you're not willing to open to the pain,
Correct.
feel the pain. You Pain is okay. It's not our enemy.
Yes.
It can be our biggest friend in teaching us. Like you said,
Yes.
what is it trying to tell me? It's our messenger.
True.
This is, and I mean, our society is so much based on feel good.
That's so true. That's
But I'll tell you something. The day I opened up to feeling my pain, the pleasure and the joy that I experience, I see it like a spectrum. When you're unable to feel pain, you're here. And when you feel joy, you're here. As you open up to pain, let me tell you, this opens up. And the more you open up, you will see one day the moon and you will cry from joy because the amount of joy that you're experiencing is also relative to the amount of pain that you are willing to experience.
yes, yes, yes. That
So then you want more pain because you want more joy. And then, also like for me, I also ended up in a relationship, which was also a very big learning experience for me. It was one of the biggest life lessons. I was with someone, I was married for 30 years, and it ended up, I divorced only 6 months ago, and I separated only 2 years ago. And it was a very we were very close, or so I thought, and it was a very unhealthy relationship. So I mean, when we've been through childhood trauma, we also make choices in life that are not healthy,
yes,
and we accept unhealthy as being the norm.
the normal. Yes, that's so true.
And then when you heal this, you realize there's something not right, and that you as a human being deserve so much more and you're worthy.
Correct.
So, this is what I'm trying to say is you also, depending on what traumas are unhealed, you end up making choices in life that are not healthy, whether it's in your friendships, in your relationships, in your career. You self-sabotage.
Yes.
And, I can say that today, I mean, the relationship with my ex ended, and it was a very difficult ending, but it also allowed me to go back into my own inner strength. And without it, I would not have been able. And that strength I had all along. I just chose not to tap into it. It was easier staying small,
Yes.
living in his shadow.
Yes.
And then taking accountability for that today, I'm like, thank you for the life lesson. These were my choices. And today I will choose differently.
Yes.
And this is, because it's easy for me to sit here and spend an hour on this podcast talking about my marriage and how I can blame him, maybe. I can. But then I'm giving all my powers away.
Yes.
And then I will repeat the same patterns. So no, I will take accountability to my part in this unhealthy relationship. And I'm ready today to say, yes, there were parts of me that contributed or that was accepting of completely abandoning myself in this connection. And even with friendships. And I won't do that again because I'm today in a place of self-compassion and I know my worth.
So true, so true. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful how you're changing your life, because these are the steps that you actually take forward, because uh, it's us who change, then the
Yeah.
society, the people, the children, they change.
Yeah,
So
and
going
when you
forward,
make
like,
these choices, you're making these choices. Why did I choose that? Why did I choose this, at certain jobs that were not aligned with me? I made these choices. So by taking full responsibility for my changes, for my choices, I take full responsibility for future choices that will be different.
true.
Why? I mean, it's easy to blame others and be in a state of victimhood, but this is the most disempowering thing I could do.
Correct.
So I want to empower me and my clients. I'm like, okay, it's harsh to take responsibility. Yes, maybe this person or your boss is a very toxic person. But what are your choices? Why are you choosing to stay? Why are you choosing to accept? What can you do differently? Because then we give our powers away. Like, why? We have choice.
We do. It's difficult, and it's just like we have to look for it. Maybe we have to struggle to make that choice, but then at the end we are happy. We are glad that okay, we did
Yes.
this. We took that step.
It's that step. It's exactly that. You said it. It's that step. It's the step where we are in total fear. We
Fear.
need to jump into fear.
Yes.
And in fear, there is magic.
Correct.
It's uncomfortable. When you feel your body is uncomfortable, go there.
Yes.
That's where magic is.
Correct. Correct. We would like to know, a story or a testimonial or something of about your client that has actually changed their life. If you could do that for us, please.
Yes, yes. So a few years ago, just when I actually started, a year and a half, 2 years ago, I had a client who was really, really struggling with her relationship with food.
Oh.
I mean, she was quite slim. She looked super healthy. She exercised, but she had a lot of binge eating.
Hmm.
So she would go through moments, days, months of near starvation or
Oh.
eating very little,
Okay.
like skipping meals, a chaotic way of showing up with food. And then she would go into days or even weeks of binge eating. Like she later, when she felt it was safe enough, she told me I would hide what I'm eating because I felt so much shame. I would eat so much that I could, my body couldn't take it. And there was a lot of shame around her eating.
Correct.
And in terms of her relationship with food. And it was heavy. I mean, she was struggling really quite a lot with that. And obviously I cannot be in any way judging her. These experiences are very painful. And I was just there with a lot of compassion. Every session, she would talk about it. She would talk about the shame. We would go deeper into what is that shame? What is happening? And so she was carrying a lot of shame towards her body and how she felt. And what came out, actually, interesting enough, that she feels she does not deserve to look good.
Oh.
Like, she cannot take up that space of looking good. It's not for her.
What's the reason she's feeling so?
So that was coming from her childhood, her place within the family, within the society, it was not for her to shine. She had a few traumatic experiences as a child. Again, actually, one of them was sexual abuse.
Oh, okay.
So it was safer to stay unattractive, small.
Correct.
You know,
A way to protect herself.
To protect herself.
Yes.
And it's her familiar. You know, we often go to familiar. Familiar is comfortable. Even if we know familiar is not healthy, is toxic, we prefer familiarity. Our body is addicted to familiarity.
Correct, correct.
Even if our mind is telling us, what are you doing?
We are not ready to go for change.
No, we'd rather stick to old patterns, knowing really well that they're not healthy, but at least we know how to behave in these situations. So with her, we did quite a lot of work on healing that child, and at one point I invited her, we did a lot of work on self-compassion.
Okay.
As well. I gave her a lot of worksheets. Every session we ended up with some goal on working through the traumas, and she was very open as well. I mean, without that, I cannot do anything. So she really was also, not only was she open, but she also had a very high level of self-awareness and self-reflection. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that makes my job much easier.
Oh.
And if a client is self-aware, they are open to self-reflection.
Yes.
And after, I would say a good 6, 7, 8 months, at one point, early on, I would tell her, okay, can we just maybe, and I believe that with all my clients, especially the younger ones, can we forget good food, bad food? I want you to be in a place where you give yourself permission. Okay. And it's incredible when we start giving ourselves permission, we are taking responsibility for what enters our body. We're not fighting. There isn't this inner conflict. So suddenly, as she started giving herself permission, she wanted to nurture her body with healthier food because she has suddenly been allowed to eat anything she wants.
Correct. So true.
Like I said, okay, you know what you want? I'm definitely not for sugar, but I wouldn't tell her, go eat this 3 boxes of sugar. Really? Yeah, try. Well, give permission. No, I don't want to. Because suddenly it's allowed.
Correct.
And who's going to choose? Not me. You're going to choose.
Correct.
And slowly, she would binge eat, but much less. So she would shift from eating 3 bags of chips and crisps to actually, after half a crisp, I felt I gave myself permission. And if I want, I can eat more, but I don't want to. I want to take care of myself.
That's the beauty.
And it's not, overnight.
Correct.
It's through openness, it's through work, it's through wanting to nourish and self-compassion. But that's one example. And then, she came back to me and we're still in touch, not so much. We stopped coaching. My objective is not to coach people for life. If I'm coaching for life, then there's something wrong. So we stopped coaching. Occasionally, she'd book one session with me just as a catch-up. And really, her relationship with food has completely transformed. There is this self-compassion in her that I love my body. I want to take care of it. I really want to, I'm so sorry for having harmed it for so long.
Oh, wow.
And there's a big shift. That's it. It's not about dieting. It's really, to me, this is how I work. We all know what foods are healthy, what we know.
Yes. It's just the awareness which we have to create to your own self and tell that this is what the reality is, and we have to accept and move on. And once we
Absolutely.
accept and move on, I think it becomes very easy for us
Yeah.
to make the right choice.
I totally agree. Thanks for like summarizing it so beautifully. Yeah. Totally.
Very
And
nice.
it's empowering. Like
Yes.
it's so empowering to know that it's up to us to make, we're not relying on anyone.
Yes, yes, that's actually so true. And somewhere I could relate this with parts of this podcast with myself too, because I was 10 kgs more heavier than I am today, and
Wow.
today I can relate that, while people offer me an ice cream, I say no, I don't want. It's my choice. I don't
Mm,
want sugar. I don't
mm,
want cold drinks, beverages which are sweet. I don't want tea with so much of milk and sugar. I just want black tea. It's my choice to go for healthy food, and I don't feel guilty. A lot of
yeah.
people ask me that, don't you feel the urge of having a milk tea? And I'm like, no, I'm good with a black tea. It's because I'm
Mm,
happy.
mm,
Inside, I'm happy that, I'm weighing much lighter, and I could fit into my dresses, and I'm happy. I'm glad. I'm enjoying this actually. And
yeah, and you look great. I don't know how you looked 20 kilos heavier, but you look like as well. It gives you energy when you're
energy,
feeling
yeah,
good.
that's so
It,
true.
it's the
It
energy. And I
actually
think,
motivates you to get up and get dressed up nicely, and it gives, I mean, it boosts a lot of confidence. I
yeah,
don't think that I lost so much of weight for anybody, but for my
mm,
own self and my own
mm,
self confidence.
it's exactly that. And you know what? Also, I think there's a big part of it, if I hear you correctly, it's not even about the weight and the weight loss. It's how you feel.
Correct.
And it's also accepting not being socially perfect.
Yes, yes,
Actually, it's about loving your imperfections.
yes, yes,
And
that's so true.
there's so much beauty in that, I think, as women, as men. I mean, the pressure we have in looking in a certain way and actually saying, you know what, I don't want to look that way. I want to look like me. And I'm beautiful with
Yeah,
my imperfections. That's the beauty of me. And that's the humanity of me.
correct,
And then, when you have that mindset, the way you walk into a room,
correct. that that
that's it.
that actually impacts a lot,
Yeah.
and gives you
Yeah.
that, motivation and encouragement to do better and better, and look good, do good, be happy, be positive, be self motivated, and just and I think what we are, we equally change the people around us.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Just being us. Isn't that easy? So easy.
So easy.
Like,
Actually,
why
that's
do we
so easy.
complicate life? It's so easy. This is, like I always say, my biggest teachers were my three children, are my three children.
Oh wow.
And like, I really listen to them and they inspire me in so many ways, but also seeing them I have twins, they are 21, girl and boy, and I have an older daughter who's 23. And I just love the way they're showing up in this world.
Mm,
The way they set boundaries, the way they're self compassionate, the way they're showing up. I'm like, my God, if you're doing this as 20 and 23, I hope I'll be alive to see how you will be at 50. Like,
agree.
you're living the life that I'm living now. It took
Now.
me so long, and that's amazing. And
Amazing. Yes, yes,
yeah.
yes, yes.
And I
It's
think
in a
also
way
a lot
very
of,
good
yeah,
because they'll be, I mean, this is really amazing because if they are so perfect, they're so good, they're so self loving, this is how they'll be changing the life of their partner,
yes,
their
absolutely.
children, their
Yes,
generations to come.
I hope so. And I think really they're on the right track. And despite this generation having a lot of challenges, I also feel that this generation is much more open
Yes,
to doing. somewhere, to wanting things differently.
Correct. Correct. Correct.
So, and I think it's an important point I would like to make in this podcast, because I've been talking about it quite a bit the last few days. And I think also an important part of how we show up in this world is, like society teaches us to be strong.
Yes.
And being strong is being loud, being aggressive, taking space. And to me, the way I see somebody who is strong is actually being kind. It takes a lot of strength being kind, being tender, being vulnerable. This, to me, is strength. And the more we can do that and allow for that, the more deeper connections we will have, because the world needs.
Correct.
People are hungry for kindness.
Yes.
And it takes strength to be kind, because you are opening up to, you don't know how others, we're scared to be kind.
Yes. Yeah. Because we don't know what the other person will think of our kindness.
Yeah.
We may be judging. I mean, people judge us. So
Yeah.
how will they be perceiving us? So I
Yeah.
think it's a big deal to be kind today.
Yeah. And we need to be. I mean, I think it takes a lot of strength to be kind, and showing up in your kindness is extremely powerful.
Correct. So it was really amazing, an endearing conversation with you, Tamara. It's like a beautiful moment that we both are sharing, and the knowledge that you have, it's just exceptional and just beautiful. Uh, we would like to have few more questions with you, and our audience will be very delighted if they get more and more information and details from you. So we have a question that you speak different languages: English, French, Arabic. So how do you navigate cultural differences and language barriers with your clients?
It's a great question, actually. And funny you should ask that. And funny how the universe prepares you for that. So, like a few years before I got into coaching, I ended up teaching at a university as a lecturer. And I taught a course for master's students on intercultural differences. It sort of led me, really, it gave me a strong foundation into the world of coaching and the impact of different cultures and how certain questions in certain cultures should be addressed. Now, keeping in mind, I do speak 3 languages and I've lived in 7 countries. So for me, shifting from one culture to another, from one language to another, is sort of natural. I don't actually need to even give it much thought, because it's within myself. I understand. I mean, before getting into coaching, I was working with Geneva Tourism, and I was responsible for the Russian market, for CIS markets, for all the Gulf countries. So to me, I don't know if I can just say it's intuitive, but I think it's intuitive because as a child growing up, I was always exposed to different cultures, and I just had to ping pong in a way from one culture to another. And this comes into my culture. So if I was to give some examples to make it more concrete for your audience, I would say when it comes to emotions, definitely some cultures are more closed in. Coming from Lebanon, I would say as a culture, we are quite emotional, a bit like the Italians. We express, however, we do express, but that does not mean we're connected to emotions as such. So I always start, I think it becomes especially sensitive when it comes to using the emotional language and talking about trauma. Like in certain cultures, like the Middle Eastern and Lebanese, I would say we have a lot of difficulties in maybe acknowledging that something in our childhood was not right.
Correct.
Because we feel that we're blaming, but it's not about blaming. Correct. It's also about understanding that this is how our parents showed up, and this was they did an amazing job, but we would like to do things differently.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I find there's a lot of, there's a sort of a barrier, and I should be very sensitive when to open that door, because
Yes.
I don't want them to feel we're here to blame their parents
Yeah.
on having done something incorrect. It's not about that. So I
True.
would say in that case, for example, I really take into account certain cultures. With European cultures, other issues might show up that are different. Like I think on the emotional vocabulary, some are more closed in because they're more composed. So
Correct.
it's finding another pathway if needed and if the client is ready. It's not for me to decide.
Yes.
And I would do that, for example, by introducing nonviolent communication, because nonviolent communication is an amazing tool whereby we really expand the vocabulary of our emotions. So I would use different approaches, different pathways, depending on the culture and depending on the person. I mean, there's the culture and there's the person behind it as well.
Wow, wonderful, wonderful. You also have your Tamara Bay coaching. So we would like to know what are your future goals for Tamara Bay coaching? How do you plan to expand your practice?
So I'm really happy with the direction it's moving. I'm a people's person. I love being with people, and I also attend a lot of retreats myself, and I really, really appreciate the power of a community in healing. So the way I would like to develop my practice and my coaching is really to be more active in a community of coaches rather than doing purely one-to-one.
Yes.
So that would be facilitating trauma and spiritual retreats, being part of a group. There's
Beautiful.
so much power in that.
Beautiful, beautiful thought. Beautiful thought.
And then you reach a much bigger audience as well. So you're healing more people.
Yes, yes, yes. I think you are on the very right path, and we really wish you all the very best for your future endeavors. You're doing amazing, and may God bless you, and you keep soaring higher and prospering with the beautiful work and job you're not only doing for your clients but actually for the society.
Thank
Because
you.
it's like one change when it comes, it actually changes another 10, then another 10, and the pyramid goes on.
It's
So we really
exactly what I said when I started. I said, if I can have one impact on one person, I would
yes,
have achieved my goals.
correct, correct,
And
correct.
yeah,
That's
it's so rewarding, to be honest. And it's beautiful to witness transformation in others.
correct, correct. That's really beautiful. And as we are very close to end the amazing session with Tamara, it was wonderful, Tamara, having you at our podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. But before we close down, we would like to know your thoughts, your message to the amazing viewers, to the audience, those who are listening to you. If you could share your mantra, your words of advice.
One only? Or can I have more than one? There are a few poets that I really love. So I really, really love the work of Rumi, and he says so many beautiful poems on how we can show up. So I would maybe just invite the viewers or the listeners to read The Guest House by Rumi. It's about welcoming your emotions. It's beautiful. Every time I read it, I cry because it's
Wow.
basically opening your door to emotions, welcoming them, inviting them for tea. And I find it
Wonderful.
so powerful. I'm not going to sit and read it. Another one by also Rumi, and I started our podcast today by highlighting that. He says the wound is the place where the light enters you, and there is so much truth in that. So go into the pain, go into the discomfort. It's an emotion that needs to be expressed. And my mantra, and this is something I often tell my own children, I'm like, always, there is nothing easier and nothing more simple than speaking your truth.
True.
You go into meetings, you don't need to prepare. When you have a challenge, just speak your truth. There is
Speak.
so much power in that.
Correct.
Really, and it's so easy. You don't
It's so
have to be
easy.
anyone
And
else. Like when we go through life not speaking our truth because there is fear, there is shame, there is guilt. But actually, the only way for deep connections is by speaking your truth.
yes.
And like every my eldest who works in London, and I'm sure she's going to listen to this podcast, and every, she calls me something like, I have a meeting, I don't know what to say. I'm like, just speak your truth, let it come from the heart. And she goes, you're right, actually, just speak. And it's so simple, and we tend to complicate life by moving so far away from our truth.
Correct. Correct.
And remember, even if you speak your truth and it might hurt someone else, often it's because you care about the connection
Yes.
that you are speaking your truth.
Correct. Correct.
So,
That's the beauty.
yeah, and of course, there's a delivery. I mean, speak your truth, but there's, let it be, when it comes from the heart, it will come from a space of compassion, not from a space of anger.
Yeah. That's actually the truth part, which is very well defined by you. I really appreciate your words of wisdom, and I think if really today's generation and our viewers could actually take this one point into their own life, being kind, what we
Mm,
discussed, the first
mm,
thing, being kind to your own self first.
mm,
That's important. Even while we
mm.
are traveling the flight, they say first give oxygen to your own self, then to
Totally.
your partner.
Yeah.
So it's very important that we're kind and compassionate towards our own self. And then this is how we'll be actually able to heal the beautiful world. And
Yeah.
being honest, nothing like more than
Yeah.
that, being honest to your own self, to the world around you. And life is
Mm.
simple, life is so easy.
Yeah, it's so easy when you are aligned to your own values and your own core self. It's so simple. And
So,
that's the beauty of being human. And you know what? It's also embracing your flaws and your
yeah.
imperfections. There's also beauty in that.
Correct, correct. That's
So,
beautiful. Thank you so much. I mean, it was absolutely a fun moment that we had with you, Tamara. Thank you so much for joining us. We had an amazing session with you, and that's how we are wrapping up today with Passion Vista podcast. And we were with Miss Tamara, and it was amazing session that we had. Thank you, Tamara, for having us, and it was a beautiful session with you. So let's
I'm
stay.
also very, very thankful for all the work you're doing, for the humbling experience of inviting me on to this podcast, and for also spreading the word. Without you, each one of us has a life experience to share, and you're the vehicle, the medium to that. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Lots of love and
Too.
blessings. And may God bless you and you do more progress in your journey of life. This is what we pray for you. And let's stay connected.
For sure, I will. Take good care of yourselves as well, and
You
thank you
too.
for
Thank
for
you.
everything.